ready? I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is
Aftermath.
Aftermath, The Ghost Inside.
I need that charger now.
By the big homie...
Man of X.
Man of X.
Who is actually a man. I told you one time, I was like, no, I think it's a woman. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, no, I just thought that that's what was said. I was wrong. I was completely wrong.
Man of X, you're out of your ever-loving mind.
Well, I mean, people have all kinds of different little kicks. Anyway, so...
Go ahead.
For timely, topical, political commentary, you can hit us up with...
At Middle America, Vin and Sori. It's not like we've been saying the same thing twice a day for the last year and a half.
You say it so fast, I kind of just
for timely, topical, political commentary.
So if you want to know what goes on in Vin's head as far as politics go, then head on over to that channel. Links are in the description of this video. And actually, the last few videos, we've had our son on there, which I think definitely adds to the show.
The
Not
big homie DL,
mom, but
the big homie DL Beluga. I never announce him as my son because you know he's in his own.
He's his own person,
and he's got he
does not have similar views.
He does not have similar views,
but that's what makes him more interesting. Yeah. So anyway, if you are like Man of X and you're like, how did they get their song done? Like, I want a song reaction. The way to do that is you can either jump on Patreon or you can go through PayPal. It's $125 to get a song done. You can dedicate it to somebody, whatever you want. After you've done that with us 3 times, like this big homie, then you get jumped down to the $75 price. So that's kind of a cool little perk that Vin put in there for you. No, I think it's good too. Anyway, but if you're like $125 or even $75 is way beyond what I can do, you can join an alliance, which is actually like a group of people that starts at $1 per month. So you can jump on a Patreon for $1 a month, and then you join in a group and you guys work together to get your song on our list. Or you could just, you know, hang out and see what pops up and roll with the punches, whatever you so decide. Anyway. So we are about to do this one, Aftermath. Ready?
Yes, The Ghost Inside. I'm actually going to be shooting a video with the big homie DL Beluga pretty soon. So
here we go. Ready?
There you go.
The driver of a tour bus is dead after a head-on crash with an 18-wheeler. The band, The Ghost Inside, was traveling on that bus in El Paso after a performance in Lubbock. Gregory Hoke of Round Rock died along with the driver of the 18-wheeler, Stephen Cunningham. 10 passengers on that bus, including members of the band, were hospitalized. The band performed in San Antonio just 2 days before this deadly crash.
Because happened to my happy ending? Foundations that could never break. Was moving forward a mistake? Or is that me pretending? What happened to my happy ending? Today I woke up to a brand new me. I know I can't rewrite history. Yesterday is gone, and I'm ready for what tomorrow brings. Foundations that the beat goes on. Moving forward, the beat goes on. Yesterday is gone, but the beat goes on. Foundations that the beat goes on. Moving forward, the beat goes on. Yesterday is gone, but the beat goes on.
Shit, man.
That's tough. That's really tough.
That's like that XTC song we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like
Yep, that's a tough one.
the suffering and the seems like they overcame it. They came out on the other side. That
So
singer.
their band got in their. What happened? The guy fell asleep. The tour bus driver. Is that what they said?
Yeah, I was kind of. As soon as I heard that somebody died, I was like, "Fuck, bro." But yeah, something like that happened. Yeah, I guess.
That's sad. Ugh. And it looked like a lot of them got pretty banged up. They all landed in like a lot of them landed in the hospital. One guy lost his leg. I was like, wow, good for him to keep right on going. Did you see that girl with the bloody nose? Like a
Was she in the pit?
She must have been. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, man, that's yeah.
Some crow. She's all bloodied. It's like I don't know, somewhere around 2.5 minutes, a little bit before.
Well, that's why, I'm like, again, you talk about suffering and things like that. It's like, I think people in the metal community probably have an inside track in understanding the theology behind it, as far as like, we put ourselves in situations where we suffer together in a mosh pit. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, but at the end of it, people are like hugging and all that. You know what I mean? Like, because everybody gets it. Like, if you're outside of the metal community, like, you will never understand what a mosh pit is. But there's a lot of theology happening in a mosh pit. Mm-hmm. But that was like a left hook, bro, because I had no idea that that's what the song was going to be about, which is good because he didn't say that in the summary, right? But anyway, rest in peace to the driver, holy moly, and there's another guy that got hurt too. Yeah. But, it's a song about...
To get that close and then lose somebody, and when the song started out and like it went from the news thing to him like yelling, like I thought that was like absolutely perfect, that transition. It's obviously a very, very painful thing, and I think that the words of the lyrics in this song, I think, are honest and they're good. I think that they're helpful. Yeah,
this is a hardcore song, and hardcore is probably like one of the more. I like it. Hatebreed is a hardcore band. Like they're. That's probably one of the more interesting genres in metal, because it's most of the time almost like overwhelmingly, it's always positive. Like there's always like an overcoming type of, to me, hardcore is like what Christian metal should be if it wasn't corny. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which of course, obviously not all Christian metal is corny. There's a lot of really awesome.
Yeah, we found some good stuff that people have brought to us.
Well, particularly Thrice.
Mm-hmm.
But hardcore is like a really interesting brand of metal because it's explicitly positive. Mm-hmm. And so like he says some pretty, like, to me this is a pretty risky line in the breakdown where he says, all the demons that follow me around, it's time I put you 6 feet deep underground. Because
yep.
And I'm not really certain with bands, like, if they have, especially like smaller bands, like if they have like a specific driver that always drives them around. Mm-hmm. Like, I know Metallica, rest in peace to Cliff Burton, but like he, you know, the driver basically said that there was black ice or whatever, and flipped the bus, and then
I thought that
Cliff Burton died.
I thought that what she said was that it was a tour bus.
Yeah.
But so from that I understood. You know, like when you want to go touring around a place and you hop in. So I don't know if it was.
No, I'm pretty sure it's a band.
It's their band tour bus.
Yeah. So I don't know if like they knew the driver or what. But anytime you're in a car accident like that or a bus crash like that, like it's traumatic. And you're going to, you know, you're traumatized. You know, he's talking about demons. You know what's funny? Like, I didn't really know that I was traumatized by the big accident that, you know, basically changed our lives. Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
Until I started learning how to drive late. One person is believed to have died in El Paso. They had collided with a truck. My brother Andrew was airlifted to the hospital this morning. Bus is involved in an accident. He's alive. He suffered head trauma, broken bones of his lower extremities, a shoulder injury. I mean, these guys got wrecked in this. Yeah, that was the drummer. The drummer's name is Andrew.
And then he lost his leg.
Tazik or something like that. But he was, you know, they were lucky in the sense that they lived, but, you know, obviously homeboy died, and obviously it's a terrible situation to be able to say that. Mm-hmm. But like, I didn't, you know, so we got this giant accident. It was, you know, we got hit into another lane by like 2 cars, just hitting once and hit twice, get into the other lane, and then the truck was coming this way, and every time I talk about it, you still see it. And you know, my mother was convinced that that's it, we're dead. So she was like, she basically said, we're coming home, Lord, or whatever. And I thought that was weird as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, yo, that's kind of, it's really strange.
I mean,
yeah, but you know, it was almost a little bit like slow motion, which is kind of weird. But she did that, and then Junior was sitting right here, and he jumped, you know, over and did the little twist thing or whatever in the last second, and my mother
literally don't even understand how that worked. Because it is so hard to not overcompensate. And he's a child.
He was younger. He was much younger than Dorian. He wasn't even 13 at the time. He was 12 max.
Johan's
11.
age.
Johan's age, yeah.
I feel like Johan would try to reach over and do that, but I think he would overcompensate and flip the whole vehicle.
He saved us all.
My
brother did. You know, like, but like, the accident happened, and you know, we walked out completely fine. My mother was wrecked. She had a massive head injury. I didn't know what was happening. Like, and it was crazy because when I hear, there was a thing on Metallica. Like, when we really started listening to Metallica on the channel and whatever, I went and looked at, you know, people were talking about Cliff, the bassist or whatever, and I went to YouTube, and I was like, you know how I get obsessed about that stuff. So I started looking everything up, and I guess Kirk, the guitarist, Kirk and him were arguing about like who got to sleep where. Mm-hmm. And it was something like Kirk said, all right, fine, you have it, I don't care, you know, blah blah blah, and I'll take this one, but, you know, fuck you, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And like, there was something happened, like Kirk was supposed to be there or vice versa, and Kirk said, fine, you can have my bunk or whatever, and then sure enough, they get in an accident that night, and Burton dies, you know, so it was just a weird.
Yeah.
And, I told a story where, you know, it was my turn to sit in the front seat, and Junior was saying it was his turn, and so we started fighting, we started going at it, And my mom said, just, all you go in the back. And, you know, when we got out, I remember hearing the paramedics saying, first, they were basically saying, I can't believe anybody's alive in here. And then they said, good thing nobody was in that front passenger seat. Holy shit. Like, they came out, like, the other way or whatever. Like, so it's just weird how those things work out. And, you know, say whatever you want. You know, it's like, there's no simple answers. Because if I say God saved us, it's like, well, what did God do with Cliff Burton?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, so me saying that God was involved in that very obvious, I don't
like
believe
helps and doesn't help.
I don't believe it was a coincidence. Like, that doesn't solve any problems for me. But like, it's so strange. Like, I remember like learning to drive and, you know, changing lanes and stuff, and always being afraid because you had to look back. You know, you had to look back over your shoulder, and then you know. I was always afraid that when I looked ahead, that a truck was going to come, and I, you know, like I
didn't know where that was
I never connected it till like years ago, because to this day, like I hate doing that.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's not my favorite thing to do at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And like, but it's so crazy how it's so obvious, like where that's, you know, coming from, but I never even connected. It was so weird. Like, we walked out of that accident, and I promise you, like, I never thought about the accident again for years. Like, obviously, you know, when my mom, she was all screwed up, we had to visit her in the hospital. I was confused about why she even had to be in the hospital. I still remember, you know, the game I rented, it was Ninja Gaiden, and then there was a Karate Kid one that we were very late on giving back. And I remember my stepdad, you know, he looked kind of strange, like
stressed out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a weird situation. Yeah. And my older brother was really, you know, Junior was always, I don't know, like 5-10 years older mentally than all the rest of us. So he was not in a good situation. I was just playing my video games, and he was angry at me. I was like, oh, Ninja Game, no, I'm gonna beat this up, blah 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 blah. And, you know, like, as much as, you know, I introspect a lot. I don't necessarily think that I was doing it to like avoid the situation. I truly didn't think anything happened, because we just walked out, and you know, you see action movies as a kid, you don't understand that shit. I didn't really like deal with my mortality in the situation until my mom got home, because she was like, you know, there's the hospital, and then there's trying to stabilize her and all this, and then she didn't come home for a while. So
how long's a while?
I don't even know.
You think it was months?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
Oh my gosh, I would be losing my freaking mind.
When she came home, I was like, she was just so different. You know what I'm saying? So that's when.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's when I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, man, like it was so weird. I just remember like thinking to myself, like, there was just like this voice in my head, like, why do you think a truck is gonna hit you? Like, why did it have to be a truck? And it's always the same truck. You know what I'm saying? So like, and my mom used to tell that story because she used to talk about like God and God's deliverance and all this, and like, she'd always tell. Sometimes I feel bad telling the story because the way my mom talked about it, she was always celebratory about it. She was always like, "Oh, God did this," and yada yada yada. And I just, you know, I don't know. Older I got, I never really looked at it like that. Especially, you know, you don't hear about this a lot in New York City, but because we're all using public transportation. But when I came to Maine, like, so many people, like, were dying in car accidents, and kids, teenagers, you know, stupid, you know. So that's really when I really started to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, I started to deal with, like, you know, people dying in traffic. You know, like. So that was a pretty crazy situation. So I've never told that story in a jubilant way. I almost feel bad about it because my mom, like, it was always some big crescendo, and all, you know, it was always some, and, you know, my mom talked about God any time she could, and she didn't talk about her introspections and her whatever. She didn't talk about that publicly. I see it in her writing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, she's got her Bible and stuff, but I see it in the writing, like, she's, you know, like the way that we struggle with stuff sometimes on the channel with our friends, like she never talked about it. It was always like, God did this great, you know, blah 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 blah. So I'm always like, oh man, when I tell that story, like I feel bad, but it's just real. Like I do believe that God like strategically saved our lives, you know, both with, you know, causing us to get into that fight and giving my brother the
crazy,
giving Junior that, you know, that situational awareness, because the whole thing is so slow to me, and like even now I'm seeing it happen, and but it must have been 2 seconds. He must have had no margin of error, because
those situations strangely always go in slow motion.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because I was in an accident once too. It was nothing big, but it was like slow motion, and it was weird because you replay it and you're like, why didn't I?
Right, it sounds so easy.
It does, because of how slow it felt, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I can't remember. There's some reason why. I think your brain, I don't know. The kids show me all those little videos they find where it explains stuff like that, and one of them was like what happens to your brain in tragedy.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, so that's tough. It's a tough situation to bounce back from, like, obviously dying in it, but living through it is also like, you know, it's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. And then you compare it to other, you know, very crazy situations where you probably should have died. And, you know, that's the other thing where I started to reconcile, like, oh, okay. Because it's like, oh, this feels exactly the same. The only difference is there are certain situations was like, okay, we're going to die right now. And then there are other situations where, like, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Junior probably thought we were in trouble, but I had no idea. Jaden was a baby. There are other situations where I was like, yeah, man. But it was weird because the other ones, I was like, I had made peace with it. I'm like, but, you know, circumstances. But it's still the same feeling. It's weird. Like at the time, other situations, like at the time, I'm not. I didn't feel a single inch of fear at all. Mm-hmm. It was just a, you know, I used to get this real sad feeling when I'd like read these big giant books and I'd get to like the pages started to get more and more thin and then it was like over. Mm-hmm. It was like that. It was like feeling like that, like it's over, and you know. But yeah, it's a crazy situation. But this song is deep, man, because he you know, typical hardcore fashion, they were really positive.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it wasn't like false positivity, like, you know, because he's like, how many times must I beat my head against a wall before I finally break through?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was sad because he was saying like, what happened to my happy ending? Like, it's weird because like, none of us, like, we all kind of like want a happy ending, you know what I mean? Like, and nobody's been promised that they're gonna have a happy ending necessarily, like unless you take a Christian worldview. But like, what happened to my happy ending? Like, and then when he says the beat goes on, yesterday is gone, and the beat goes on. Like, I liked that because it was, these people are musical. And that's what they do, and this is their life, and he was a part of that, and now he's not a part of it. But there's this, I think, you have to have something that kind of helps pick you back up after tragedy, and I think that the beat going on is what kind of helped them, like, the show must go on, like, they have to continue on and kind of carry that. But it was like, hopeful but sad at the same time.
Yeah.
But every time he did that yelling part, I thought that was great. I loved his vocal style when he was singing. I literally loved every different type of vocals that he did. And it was pretty crazy to see the drummer, you know, with his leg amputated and still going for it. Like, some people, when tragedy strikes, they just give up, you know what I mean? And some people say, all right, I'm going to try even harder. I've seen, like, there was somebody playing a guitar and they were in a really awkward situation. I don't know if they were playing with their feet or what, but it was like one of those situations where it's like most people would just said, I'm not going to be able to do that because of my, but because of my handicaps. But some people just say, you know what? Yep, I have these handicaps, but I'm still going to go all in. And I think that's really cool.
Kudos to the band too, because obviously, like, he's not playing at the level. It's gonna be literally impossible that he plays at the level that he did before. But the band's like, nah, man, you're in the band. Period. End of story. Like, that's people talk a lot about brotherhood and all that, but like, a lot of times, like, that shit gets tested. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing when people like stick together and say, nah, we're gonna stay with you. But yeah, foundations that could never break. Was moving forward a mistake, or is that me pretending? That's true. Like, that whole survivor's guilt stuff, and I remember, like, when I lost a family member one time, it was pretty tragic way for them to go, and unexpected. And I just remember, like, X was in the air in New York on the way there, and then I was home with I was in Kentucky at the time with the kids, and like everybody from here knew about it, like, because the town's small and that shit just goes around, everybody knew about it. And I remember, like, after putting the kids to bed, like, looking at Facebook, and life goes on like normal. I was like so angry, I'm like, wow. Like, this epic thing just happened, and like everybody's just, but it's like, I resented the hell out of people for that, man. It took me like a very, 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 honestly, like, I feel like there's still some people to this day that it was so easy for me to like never speak to them again after another conflict, but that initial conflict really wasn't the reason. It was that situation, to be honest. Now that I'm really thinking about it, like, it was that situation where I was like, man, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
Like, fuck all of you people. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, right or wrong.
It was such a weird situation because him and I were not married at the time, obviously. And it was a weird situation because there was somebody that was in the medical field. None of us had ever been through something so traumatic as that. And not even anything had been even close to that. So, I didn't know how much support somebody would need in a situation like that. I think initially, I think my knee jerk is like, okay, the person needs like some real, like, stand beside them. But then the medical professional was saying, like, no, people need to like progress and move forward. But it hadn't even been that long. Like, it was the weirdest thing.
3
like,
months.
Now I look back and I'm like, that was like literally the worst advice. And I wish I would have, seen through that. And I kind of like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. But sometimes I think that it's not so much that people are trying to be helpful by saying like, oh, they should move forward, but it's more that people, like, they personally feel so heavy about what happened that they don't want to deal with it and they don't want to feel it. And so they want to push the other people forward.
That guy was a problem solver. And like, that's not a problem you can solve.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just not a problem you can solve.
It's like that other person, when her husband died and then people wanted her to get into another relationship, or, it's just, they want to do something that will change it so then they don't have to feel that. But people have to feel, and people have to go through. Especially if it's like in an unnatural, unexpected, like, no disrespect, but if you've got an 88-year-old parent who's got, 4 replaced hips and they've got lung cancer, like, you had your spins. Like, it's not gonna be good. You're always gonna miss them, but there's a sense in which everybody kind of mutually understands, like, this is the way it's supposed to be. But like that situation or this situation, like, it's just not. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So like, it was a hard situation, and I think I probably, that's one of the reasons it's just so easy for me to just. But yeah, this is a tough situation for sure. So like, moving on and things like that, like, it's hard because you feel like you're dishonoring the person or whatever, But at the same time, like, I know both of them
Well, one of them. That's a whole other situation. That's a whole other ball of wax. One of them would have been like, yeah, go on with your life and go on, be happy. The other one, that's a different story. But, but the beat goes on thing, I mean, I'll probably never listen to this song again for the rest of my life, ever. Mm-hmm. But it's an important song, and it's important for people to... It's important.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You have to be able to, it does. I mean, because on the other side of it, I was looking at people's faces and I'm like, yeah, these people, but there's another part of me is like, yeah, but you can't have these people feeling like, you don't want them to feel what you feel right now. You know what I mean? Like, it was weird because I'd seen people shot, I'd seen people like bleeding out on the concrete, the streets in the Bronx. Like, I've seen people slashed, I've seen like a bunch of, but nothing like friends, like, but nothing hit me like that one. That one's like, because in the Bronx, like, you're expecting that shit. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So, but that one I wasn't expecting it at all. Well, so yeah. I was like, so there's a part of it that's like, bro, you don't want nobody to feel like that, bro. Like, part of it, then I started looking at it like, okay, like, they have a certain type of life, and they're gonna be. It was like most people are not gonna feel what you feel, like, period.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, most of your friends, thank God, are not gonna have to go through what you're going through right now. And so this part of me was like, all right, I understand that. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy for them. And plus, we were in Kentucky. They were hundreds of miles away from us. What are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So I understood it. You know what I mean? I get it. So, but yeah, you do have to move on though. And I did to a degree. You know what I mean? I did. Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of kids now and all that. So I moved on, but I don't know. It's weird stuff. It's a silent count for me, but very, very, very good song. And who is this? Man of X? Mm-hmm. The good selection, man. Yeah. Very, very good selection.
It's a 10 for me.
Good song. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
Silent count is where we don't count it or we don't put a number on it because it's just too sacred or something. So obviously it has a lot of meaning, deep meaning for Vin. So that's what silent count is.
On crash with an 18-wheeler. The band, The Ghost Inside, was traveling on that bus in El Paso after a performance in Lubbock. Gregory Hoke of Round Rock died along with the driver of the 18-wheeler, Stephen Cunningham. 10 passengers on that bus, including members of the band, were hospitalized. The band performed in San Antonio just 2 days before this deadly crash. Deep underground.